It's no secret that Hunter is topping the charts in RASTAKHAN'S Rumble metagame, especially after the December balance patch. With a wide variety of viable archetypes, reliable value generation, and game plans never seen before in earlier eras of Hearthstone, no class can keep up with its toolkit, making it by far the strongest class according to the two most recent Tempo Storm meta snapshots. Let's dig into what pushed the Hunter class over the top and whether it can stay there throughout this new year of Hearthstone. For most of the game's history, Hunter strategically relied on steady shot, the ability to pressure an opponent's life total at the push of a button, not to mention a lack of viable card draw, essentially forced the class into the role of a villain. This aggressive style was the root of Smork, as well as being one of the more budget-friendly decks from the very beginning. Whether you went faced with decks that capped out at 3 mana or curved your way up to Savannah Highmane, the Hunter strategy was always about rapid, board-centric aggression and bringing a swift end to the game. Thanks to a concerted effort by Team 5 over the years, the tables had turned in the Year of the Raven, as recent cards enabled two very different archetypes to emerge. The astonishing array of Hunter's high-tier options in RASTAKHAN'S Rumble stem from two specific elements they've lacked for most of their history: cheap sources of initiative and a truckload of late-game resource generation. Candle Shot, Wandering Monster, and Flanking Strike made it infinitely more difficult for other decks to rush down the class. It's no surprise they were all introduced in Kobolds and Catacombs, an end-of-the-year set which tends to have a higher power level than previous ones. This compensates for the fact that its cards spend the shortest amount of time in the standard environment. So Rukdelar and Zul'jin joined Deathstalker Rexxar as reliable generators of value to give Hunter a viable late-game strategy. You're now more likely to close out games with Deathstalker Rexxar than Steady Shot. The star of the show right after the December balance patch was Spell Hunter. And it's very important to understand that its name is a bit of a misnomer. It's likely impossible to make a truly pure spell-based deck viable in a game as tempo-heavy as Hearthstone. Hunter has reached critical mass in RASTAKHAN'S Rumble in terms of spells that double as strong minions, providing the necessary board presence while still enabling Rukdelar's ability, unless minions are shuffled into your deck later in the game. The current popular Spell Hunter decks feature several cards that produce creatures on the board. This essentially means that you don't sacrifice much in terms of gameplay in exchange for not having actual minions in your deck to activate powerful abilities. For a deck that only features spells, it very much relies on minions. Its downside is nowhere near as dramatic as advertised, so there was essentially little reason not to pivot to this Hunter build over the previously popular secret-based ones after the balance patch. Historically, the crippling problem of control-oriented Hunter decks was the lack of viable card draw. While tracking is an excellent card, its discarded element posed a problem in most ultra-late game scenarios that are now more relevant. However, the last 2 years of Hearthstone showed us that card generation can be a very viable substitute for card draw, as long as the strategy doesn't revolve around a specific finisher. The fact that Hunter has 3 different options to generate a potentially crippling amount of resources means that the class now has a reliable edge against most traditional control-based archetypes. These decks struggle to put on pressure, paving the way for Spell Hunter's 3 finishers to gradually end the game. Subject 9 Hunter has also risen to become the current best deck in Standard because of its card draw ability. Both Master's Call and Subject 9 gave the Hunter class card draw engines we haven't seen since the original nerf to Starving Buzzard, and the archetype's success has only been a recent development. A subtle but relevant element of the new Hunter strategy stems from the improvement of the Death Knight's Build-A-Beast pool. Originally, it wasn't supposed to be updated with beasts released from expansions after Knights of the Frozen Throne. But Team 5 responded to community interest in a Deathstalker Rexxar that can summon more relevant beasts. No one could have predicted the gameplay ramifications of this change. The much higher presence of Rush, Lifesteal, and Poisonous in the pool gave zombies greater initiative and sustain. This played a great part in Deathstalker Rexxar's rise from a low-tier hero card to Supreme Death Knight of the Standard meta. Of course, Spell Hunter and Subject 9 Hunter are not the only available archetypes for the class. The Death Rattle-based archetype also has a lot of positives to offer, relying on a fairly similar shell of cards as the previous examples in order to generate sticky boards and overstatted minions for comparatively low mana. It is truly a Swiss Army knife of a deck. The combination of Kathrina Winterwisp and expensive beasts with charge alongside carnivorous cubes can be an extremely potent finisher. Opponents tend to struggle against a wide board of 312 beasts with taunt, multiple Houndmaster Shaws, or just multiple charged Devil Sars hitting the face. All this even without Deathstalker Rexxar in the mix. The Death Rattle archetype remains easily untouched by Rastakhan's Rumble, as Undasta is the only card that's really even worth considering as an addition. Death Rattle Hunter remains a perfectly serviceable option, though perhaps a slightly less desirable one after losing one of its best and most popular matchups. The rise of Quest Warrior and a potential tempo-oriented Dragon Warrior may also find this way to this particular brand of hunter. As Death Rattle Hunter's preferred prey is disappearing or adapting, Subject 9 Hunter is a more viable option this current metagame. Not only that, but mid-range hunter decks are also capable of hitting high ranks thanks to Spring Paw, Headhunter's Hatchet, Master's Call, and even Dire Frenzy, functioning very much the same as they did over the entirety of Hearthstone, meaning unless you're playing a Solitaire-like combo deck, hunters pose a fairly tricky mulligan decision for opponents in the Rastakhan Rumble meta. The success of mid-range hunters also suggests that the class is going to do just fine even after the upcoming rotation removes the class' most popular late-game closer. It's tough to overstate how big of an extinction-level event the end of the Year of the Raven is going to be for both Spell Hunter and Death Rattle Hunter. Over a third of the former deck is from Kobolds and Catacombs, and that's before you even take Deathstalker Rexxar into account. While Zul'jin will still provide some sort of a reward for running high-value spells, what we currently know of the post-rotation card pool indicates that there isn't going to be a reason to opt against the inclusion of minions in the future, even if you'd like to leverage the ability of the hero card. As for Death Rattle Hunter, it loses all of its Death Rattle triggers with the rotation of Terrascale Stalker and Play Dead, its primary targets for set abilities with Devilsaur Egg, Carnivorous Cube, and Kathrina Winterwisp, not to mention the bonus of Prince Keleseth and the late-game kill switch provided by the Death Knight. This archetype seems to be completely dead post-rotation, but you can't say it didn't have a good run. That being said, the Year of the Raven is still around for quite a few months, meaning Hunter is going to be out and about for a little while longer. The strength of the class forced many archetypes to shift toward an OTK approach as a sign of abdication. As we've previously discussed, it's become almost impossible to out-control a hunter, and the nerf to level up made it even harder to reliably rush them down either, though Odd Paladin is making a steady resurgence. Clearly, Hunter is the class to beat, and they didn't even need Undertaker or Quickshot this time to reach the top of the meta snapshot. Watch out, Rexxar may hunt alone, but there are myriads of them laying traps all over the ladder. Thank you for watching Tempo Storm's latest feature video. Let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest Tempo Storm news and Hearthstone content.